This is the best, the easiest, and most fun way to learn how to draw in the app Procreate. You'll learn about Symmetry tool, how to move and transform. You'll learn what alpha lock is, how to use a layer mask, and all while you have fun creating your first project in Procreate. Once you have followed this tutorial, I'm sure you're ready to create your own projects in Procreate, or you can follow any of the other tutorials I have here on the channel, of course. But this video will definitely get you up and running. So if you're ready, let's get started. For this tutorial, I'm going to assume that this is the first time you open up Procreate, and then this is what you'll see. A bunch of amazing artworks to impress or scare you, but we'll just ignore those. We are going to create our own custom canvas. To open a new canvas, you need to tap the plus in the upper right corner, and then you can either select one of the default sizes. I have a bit more here. I have created some more custom sizes, or you can tap this little folder with a plus to create your own canvas size, which you can later use again and again just by going to that menu. For this project, we'll create a canvas that is 2,300 pixels over here, and then we'll tap here, and then we'll make that 3,000 pixels. You don't need to touch the DPI, and here you'll see the maximum layers you'll be able to create. For me, that's 147, but for you, that might be a different number. It depends on your iPad's capabilities. Then for the color profile, we'll just keep it at sRGB. Here you have the time-lapse settings. Procreate will automatically create a time-lapse for you of your work. If you don't have a lot of space on your iPad, you can set it to a lower quality. Here you can select the background color that your canvas will have by default. I like working with a white background color, but of course, if you like pink or blue or whatever color, you can select that here. And then every time you open this new canvas, it will have that background color. Now, finally, we can tap this over here. That's the title. That's the name of this canvas. And I always like to make the name the size of the canvas. So that's 2,300 by 3,000. That will make it easier to find the canvas size that you want to use, and then you can just tap Create. And here we have our blank canvas in Procreate. Now you can just pinch your fingers on the screen to make it smaller, to rotate it, or pinch quickly to make it fill the entire screen again. Now I won't go over all the menu items because I think it's a lot more fun to just learn by doing. So let's just dive right in. For this tutorial, you need a color palette that I have linked in the description. You can download it for free. And then you need to tap the colored circle and then navigate to palettes at the bottom. And then you can tap the plus to import a new color palette from a file, which you can download, like I said. Or you can navigate to that color palette on your iPad, then tap it and tell it to open in Procreate. And then you will find that new color palette all the way at the bottom of your color palettes. So over here you have your first drawing. And to be able to use it, you need to tap one of the colors so that it will be set to your default color palette. And then let's tap Disk, and then you'll find these lovely colors here. We'll start by selecting the first one in the first row. And we are going to fill our canvas with it. You can do that by dragging the colored circle here onto your canvas like this. Just make sure that you don't hold it too long, because if you press it too long, it'll select your previous color. So don't tap it too long, just drag it onto your canvas. Then let's zoom out a little bit by pinching so we can see the edges of our canvas. Now we are going to grab a brush, and we'll go to the airbrushing brushes. These are all Procreate standard brushes, and then we'll select the soft brush at the top. And then we'll grab a different color. We'll go for this one, second color in the first row. And then to control your brush, you have two sliders over here. The bottom one controls the opacity, so how transparent your brushstroke is. Let's set that to 80. Now, the closer you are to the slider, the faster it will move, and if you move outward, it will go slower. So let's set it to 80. And then over here, you can control the size. And again, if you are closer, it'll move fast. If you move away from the slider, it'll move slowly. Let's go for 15%. And then let's go over this top area here. like this, not all the way to the top. I want there to be pink here at the top. So just something like this. And then we'll switch to the next color, the third color in the first row. And we'll put that below the orange. So something like this. Then we'll soften this gradient by going to the magic wand here at the top. Here you'll find all the adjustments you can make. And we'll go for Gaussian blur. And to turn on this blur, you need to slide on your screen from left to right, either with your pen or with your finger. Let's just slide like this. And let's go for, let's say something like 35%. And then you can tap the magic wand again to get out of there. Then let's make a new layer. You can do that in the layer menu, and you can compare layers to transparent sheets of paper. We have filled this first sheet of paper with this color, with this gradient, and now we can make another transparent sheet of paper on top of this by tapping the plus. So right now there's nothing on it, but we are going to change that. We are going to grab a brush. Let's go to the calligraphy brushes and use the monoline brush. And then for the color, let's use this one. That's the 6th color in the first row. Now the opacity of this brush is at 100%. And let's set the size to 10%. And now we are going to make a wobbly line. We'll start here on the edge and go for something like this, all the way to the right. And then we are going to drag our color underneath like this. Then we'll make another layer on top of this. So we'll go to the layer menu, the 2 little squares, tap the plus, and then we'll use this color, the 8th color in the first row. And I will start a little bit higher over here. Make another wavy line and then up here like this. Always make sure that your lines touch the edges of the canvas. Now in case your color spills all over when you try to drop it in, or in case you get a tiny little edge along your line, you might need to change the color drop threshold. And you can do that by dragging in your color and then holding it in place. And then you'll see this threshold bar at the top. We can move to the left or to the right to change that threshold. And I'm trying to always make it as high as possible before it fills the entire page, the entire canvas. And then you can just let go, and then we have filled our shape. Now I want another hill in between these two. So we need to make a layer in between these 2 layers because I want it to show up on top of this, but behind this. So first select this layer, then tap the plus, and then for the color, grab this one. That's the 7th color in the first row. Now when you make a line, do make sure that you start all the way at the edge here. And make another wavy line and make it touch the edge here. And then you can drag in the color underneath. Next, let's make a sun. Let's do that on a layer on top of this one. So first select layer 1, then tap the plus. And then for the color, we'll select this one, the 4th color in the first row. And now we are going to draw a circle. And in Procreate, creating a circle is super easy. You can just draw a wobbly circle like this, and then hold your pen in place and it will snap to the quick shape. Right now it's not a circle, but when you tap your finger on the screen, it will turn into a circle. And then when you let go, you can tap circle here at the top and then move it around. Let's place it about here. And then let's drop in our color. Now this quick shape tool, it works with multiple shapes. You can also make a square like this, or you can make a line. If it's wavy, you can hold it in place and then it will turn into a straight line. And you can even tap your finger on the screen to make sure that it's perfectly horizontal or in a certain angle. Another important thing to know in Procreate is how to undo your actions. You just saw me tap 2 fingers on the screen. That's how you can undo moves, or by tapping this arrow. And when you tap this arrow, you will redo. But you can also do that with your fingers. If you use 3 fingers, you will redo. And if you tap 2 fingers, you will undo. Now I want our sun to have a nice glow, and we are going to do that by going to the magic wand again, and this time we'll pick bloom here. Then again, you can slide on your screen to turn up the bloom. And here you also have these sliders to change the size of the glow, to change the burn. You can play around with these sliders until you have a nice effect like this. I'll stick with 24% bloom, transition to max, size at 41, and burn at 26. And then tap the magic wand again. Next, we are going to add a bit of a gradient to these mountains. Let's go to this layer first. Now, when I use the soft brush to add a gradient, I don't want the color to go outside of these mountains. Now, to do that, you need to tap the layer and then tap Alpha Lock. And now you can only paint on the shape that's already on the layer. So we can go to our soft brush under airbrushing. And then for the color, let's grab this one, 5th color in the first row. And now we can gently go over that lower area and add a little bit of light there. Just keep it subtle. Then we'll do the same for this layer, tap it and turn on Alpha Lock. You can achieve the same thing by sliding to the right with 2 fingers on your layer. And then let's use this color, 6th color in the first row. And over here, also go over the underside. And then finally for the hill in the foreground, let's tap that, turn on Alpha Lock. And then I'd like to grab this color, 7th color in the first row. And let's go over the center area with rounded motions of your pen. So you get something like this. Now, once you're happy with your hills, you can merge these 3 layers together to save some layer space. And you can do that by simply just pinching your layers together. And let's also pinch our sun layer with our sky layer. Let's just pinch these. So now we only have 2 layers left. Now let's make a new layer on top of this one. Let's tap the plus. And then for our color, let's grab this one, 5th color in the second row. And now I'd like to show you another way to add color to your canvas. We are going to use the selection tool. That's the S-shaped ribbon here at the top. And you have multiple ways to select stuff on your canvas. You can do the automatic selection. It'll select everything of a certain color range, for example. You can use freehand to select like this, or you can use rectangle. That way you can make rectangular shapes. Or you can use ellipse, makes sense. You can make ovals and circles. Now, if you want to clear your selection, you can simply tap clear here and start over. Now, in this case, I want to make a rectangular selection for our water area. So let's tap rectangle. And then we are going to turn on color fill here. That way, when you make a selection, it will immediately fill that selection with the color you have selected. So we can start here and then move up like this to about here, and then just let go and it will automatically fill with color. And now you can just tap the S-shaped ribbon again and get out of there. All right, let's zoom in a little bit again and let's start making a new layer on top of this. Let's tap the plus. Now I want some hilly shapes, and for the color, I'd like to use the 3rd color in the second row. And for the brush, I'd like to go to the inking brushes and use the studio pen. Now with the studio pen, you can make thick and thin lines depending on how much pressure you put on your Apple Pencil. Or if you have another type of pen that also has pressure sensitivity, this will also work. So let me make the brush bigger so I can show you. If you press lightly, it'll be thin, and if you press hard, it'll be thick. Let me undo this, and let's set the opacity of the brush to 100%, and I'll set the size to 20%. And then let's first make a line like this. along the water. And then let's make one on top that is a little bit wobbly. It goes down here and then back up. Something like this. And then drag in the color. Then I'd like to add a little gradient. So let's tap the layer and then turn on alpha lock. Then let's grab our brush, our soft brush under airbrushing. And for the color, let's grab this one. That's the first color in the second row. And let's go over the top, adding some light there. Then let's make more shapes. Let's tap the plus for a new layer and then grab our inking brush again, our studio pen. And for the color, we'll grab this one, fourth color in the second row. And let's start here and just make a shape like this. And then drag in the color. Then let's make a new layer on top. Let's tap the plus and make another shape on this side. And then go back like this and drag in the color. Then let's add a gradient to these two. So let's first tap this layer and then use alpha lock. Then grab the soft brush under airbrushing. And for the color, grab this one, third color in the second row. And then just go over the top to add a bit of light there. And then let's do the same for the other one. Tap that layer, turn on alpha lock, and then go over this area. Then we'll make more shapes. Let's tap the plus, go back to our inking brush. You can also go all the way to the top of your brushes and go to recent, and there you'll find any brushes that you have recently used. And then we can grab the studio pen. Then this color over here, fourth color in the second row. This one can be a little bit shorter. Then drag in the color. Then let's make another layer, tap the plus, and then start here. Drag in the color. Then let's first add a gradient again. So tap this layer first, tap alpha lock, grab the soft brush, and then that lighter color, third color in the second row. And then let's go over the top like this. And then for the next one, again, tap the layer, turn on alpha lock, and then go over the top area. Then let's make one more of these shapes. Let's tap the plus, grab the studio pen, then grab the fourth color in the second row and make one more of these shapes and drag in the color. Then of course again we'll tap the layer, turn on alpha lock, then grab our soft brush, then that third color in the second row, and then again we'll go over the top area and add some of that light. For the next step, I'd like to make some trees, and for those trees, I'd like to make use of the Symmetry tool. That means we can draw on one side of a line and then automatically whatever we draw on the left side will also show up on the right side. Now let's first make a new layer. Let's place that on top of layer 6 here. Let's tap the plus, and now we need to go to the wrench here. Here you'll find the actions menu. And then we'll go to Canvas, and then we'll turn on the drawing guide. Then go to Edit Drawing Guide, and here at the bottom you'll find all the types of drawing guides that you can use in Procreate. So the 2D grid will give you vertical and horizontal lines, and then if you turn on Assisted Drawing, all your lines that you draw will follow that grid. So you can draw like this, but still you will get a vertical line or a horizontal line. Or if you move this green handle, you can also go for diagonal lines, and you can move it around with the blue handle. Here you have the isometric drawing grid, which is great if you want to make isometric drawings. If you want help with that, I have multiple isometric drawing tutorials on the channel. You also have the perspective tool. This is empty until you start tapping your screen to create vanishing points. But we'll go for symmetry. When you use the symmetry tool, you will see one line, which you can also change by rotating, by moving it around, or you can just tap the little dot and reset it. But you can also go to the options menu here and go for a horizontal symmetry guide, a quadrant where you have like 4 areas where you can draw at the same time, or radial, which has even more. So this one you can use to create mandalas, for example. But we'll go for vertical. We want a vertical tree. And let's use this blue handle to move this around. I want our tree to be over here. So let's place it here and then tap done. Now when you go to your layer menu, you will see assisted right underneath the layer name. That means that drawing assist is turned on, and that whatever we draw on the left side of the line will also show up on the right side. Now, if you want to draw on this layer without that effect, then you can just tap the layer and turn drawing assist off here. But of course, we want it to be turned on. Now for our color, let's use this one over here, 7th color in the 2nd row. And for the brush, I want to use the Studio Pen. If you want to learn a lot more about Procreate and really go in depth, then go and check out my Patreon page. I have more than 200 tutorials over there, and they really range from super beginner friendly tutorials to more advanced tutorials. So it would be great to see you there. But now let's continue. And now let's start over here and make a line like this. So it's like a curved line meeting up there, and then we'll make shapes like this to the center. And we'll just color this in. Then we'll start here a little bit lower, a little bit more to the left, and create a curve again. And then lines like this, and coloring that in. Then we'll go a little bit lower again, a little bit more to the left, create a curve, and then again. We don't want to go too wide, so at a certain point you could just go down and not go too much to the left anymore, or just slightly. Then one more. Now we have a nice tree. Here we can make the trunk by just creating a line downward. This looks nice. Now let's zoom out. We can turn off our drawing guide by going to the wrench, then to canvas, and then turn off the drawing guide, and then tap the wrench again. Now I would like to just duplicate this tree and move it around so we can fill our canvas with multiple trees. But of course you can also continue using that symmetry line and draw multiple trees to get more variety. Now to duplicate this tree, you can do 2 things. You can slide down with 3 fingers and then use duplicate. And then immediately you can move it around, and you can also transform it. And you can use a uniform, which means that the ratio will remain the same. You can also use freeform if you want it to be thinner or shorter. And you have distort. That way you can distort whatever you want to transform. And you can use warp, which can make even weirder trees by using these handles. And to return to normal, you can just use reset. Let's set it to uniform. And then let's move our tree over here. I want it to be a little bit smaller. Something like this. And then tap the arrow. I want to duplicate it again. Like I said, you can slide down with 3 fingers, or you can go to your layer menu and then slide to the left on your layer and then tap duplicate. Then let's go to this bottom one, then to the move and transform tool. That's the little arrow. Then you'll get back to this menu, and let's move this one over here. Make it a bit smaller. Let's go for this. And then tap the arrow again. Now I also want a bunch of trees in the background. So let's go back to our first tree duplicate that. Then let's drag that layer. You can just tap and hold your layer to make it draggable. And then let's place it here underneath our blue layer. Then let's go to the Move and Transform tool. Make that smaller by dragging the handle. And let's place it about here. Then tap the arrow, and then you can slide down with 3 fingers to duplicate it. And then we're just going to fill this background with a bunch of trees by continuously sliding down with 3 fingers using duplicate. Then tapping the arrow. Now, if you are starting to run out of layer space, then you can just pinch trees together every time, at least the ones in the background, and then go back to this one to duplicate that. Then to the Move and Transform tool. Then tap the arrow, and then either duplicate this one again in the menu or by sliding down with 3 fingers. And let's nicely fill that background. Perhaps a small one over here. Let's go for something like this and tap the arrow. And then let's pinch these trees together like this. Then I want to blur them a little bit. So let's go to the magic wand, then to Gaussian blur, and then slightly slide to the right to, let's say, 3%. And then let's go back to the layer menu, the 2 little squares. Let's turn off Drawing Assist. And let's turn on Alpha Lock. Then let's grab our soft brush again. And let's grab a lighter color. Let's grab this one, 3rd color in the 2nd row. And let's go over the top parts of these trees, lightening them up a bit. And let's do the same for the trees in the foreground. Let's start with this one. Let's turn off Drawing Assist. Then tap the layer to turn on Alpha Lock. And then let's go over the top just a little bit and do the same for these 2. Let's start with this one, tap it, turn on Alpha Lock, then go here, add some light. This nicely separates these 2 trees. And then the top one, tap it, turn on Alpha Lock, and then add a bit of light here. Then we can pinch these 2 together like this. And now we need to duplicate our original tree one more time. Let's slide to the left, tap duplicate, drag it underneath the other trees here. And now we will go to the Move and Transform tool again. Make this really small for some trees here in the background, further away. Tap the arrow and then duplicate this a bunch of times by sliding down with 3 fingers. And every time tap the arrow to get out of there and then duplicate the new one. Nicely filling up that background. Just something like this. You can also place a few in between here. Like this. Then we can pinch these together. Then we can change their color. Let's go to this one over here, 2nd color in the 2nd row. Let's use that soft brush and go over this layer, lightening these up. And now we need to blur these. They are farther away than the other trees. It looks weird right now. So let's first turn off Alpha Lock. Otherwise we can blur them. Then let's go to the magic wand, to Gaussian blur, and slide to the right to, well, let's say 4%. I think this looks good. And then tap the magic wand again. Then to save some more layer space, we can pinch these trees with those hills. And now we are going to work on some reflections. We are going to take this step by step, duplicating each element to create a reflection. We'll start with these trees. We'll slide to the left to duplicate that layer. And then I want this layer to be on top of the water. Otherwise, we can't see the reflection. Then we'll go to the Move and Transform tool. And we'll use Flip Vertical. Then go to Snapping here and turn on Magnetics. So when you move it down, you can do so in a straight line. And let's go for something like this. Then tap the arrow again. And now you can see that over here, you can see some of those tree trunks sticking out over here. I just want this reflection to show up on our water. To do that, you can tap this layer and then use Clipping Mask. Now it's clipped to this blue layer, and whatever you have painted or drawn here will only show up on that blue layer. So super handy. Let's duplicate this one now. Layer 4, slide to the left, tap duplicate, go to the bottom one, then to the Move and Transform tool, and flip it vertical. Move it down like this. Maybe a little bit higher, something like this, and then tap the arrow. Now it's not necessary to use Clipping Mask right now because it's not sticking out, but I do feel like it keeps things a little bit more organized. Since we have quite a lot of layers, it will make it more clear what layers are the reflections. So let's tap the layer and then use Clipping Mask, and then move on to the next one. Slide to the left, tap duplicate, drag that down here. It automatically gets clipped. Then go to the Move and Transform tool, flip it vertical, and move it down. Now we can also make it a bit more squished. We can do so by going to Freeform and then using this handle here. Then let's move on to the next one over here. This layer, layer 6, slide to the left, tap duplicate, drag this down here, then go to the Move and Transform tool, flip it vertical, move it down, and you can squish it a bit. Then on to the next one. We are at this tree over here. Slide to the left, tap duplicate, move it down, go to the Move and Transform tool, flip it vertical, move it down, let's squish it a little bit, and then on to the next. By the way, if you are running out of layer space at this point, then you can just pinch any of these reflection layers together and then just continue with the next one. Slide to the left, tap duplicate, drag it to that clip layer, go to the Move and Transform tool, flip it vertical, and move it down. And of course you can squish it a little bit. Then on to the next one. We have 3 more to go. Slide to the left, tap duplicate, drag it down, go to the Move and Transform tool, flip it vertical, move it down, and squish it a bit. Next one, layer 8, slide to the left, tap duplicate, move it down, go to the Move and Transform tool to flip it vertical, move it downward, and squish it a bit. Next one, final one, slide to the left, tap duplicate, move it here, then go to the Move and Transform tool to flip it vertical, move it down, squish it a bit, and then let's pinch these together. Just don't pinch them with the blue layer, of course. The next thing we'll do is tap the N here next to the layer name, and here you see the opacity slider. Let's slide it to the left and set it to 50%. And now that we have all of our reflections, we can also pinch these top layers together. So we have a layer with all the hills, and we have a layer with the reflections. Now I'd like to make another layer on top of this. Let's tap the plus, and let's just zoom in a little bit. And then for the color, I'd like to use this one, fourth color in the second row. And for the brush, let's use the studio pen. And I want to make a shape here. Let's go for something like this. Go down here, then back up, and then drag the color underneath. Next, I'd like to add some grass. We'll go to a different brush section. We'll go to the organic brushes and then use the sword grass brush. Now the opacity of this brush should be at 100% and the size at around 18%. And then let's go along this area and add some of this grass. Maybe we can go a little bit higher here. And when you look at this, you will see some transparent areas. I don't want that. So what we'll do is we'll duplicate this layer, slide to the left, tap duplicate, then pinch these together, and you can do it again to make it even more opaque. And then I want this to be just one flat color. You can achieve that by turning on alpha lock on the layer and then tapping it again, and then use fill layer. Now I don't have that color variety anymore. Now let's work on the water a bit more. Let's blur that reflection a bit. Let's make sure that we turn off alpha lock, then go to the magic wand to Gaussian blur, slide to the right just slightly. Let's go for 3%. And then let's go back to the layer menu, tap our blue layer, and then tap the plus for a new layer on top. And I'll add some more color to the water. Let's grab this color, for instance, sixth color in the second row. And let's go to our airbrushing brushes again to use the soft brush. And then let's add some of that pink here at the top. And over here, I'd like to go even lighter to reflect a bit of that sun. Let's grab the fourth color in the first row. Add a little bit of that over here, very gently. And then let's also add some darker colors around the sides. Let's use this color, fourth color in the second row, and go over the sides here a little bit, near the foreground. This really adds a nice touch to our water. Now finally, let's add some clouds and let me explain layer masks along the way. Let's go to our sky layer here, tap the plus, and then for our brush, let's go back to the inking brushes and use the studio pen. And for the color, we'll use this one, fifth color in the first row. And then let's just create some simple clouds, making these rounded shapes, and then making the underside flat, relatively flat. You can drag in the color. Maybe we can make this one a little bit bigger even. And then another one over here. Some in this area. So you have those wobbles at the top, and then the lower part should be more flat. So try to go for something like this. Now we are going to add a layer mask to this layer. We'll tap this layer and then tap mask. And now there's a layer mask attached to our clouds. Right now it's white, and that means that you can see everything that is on this layer. But as soon as you start painting on this layer with black, you will start masking things of this layer, and that's what we want. Let's go to the airbrushing brushes and use the soft brush. Make sure that your color is set to black. you can double tap in some areas of your circle. And if you double tap here, it'll automatically give you pure black. And then let's go over these undersides. And that way mask a part of that cloud. Now I also want to do it for this one, but when you check, you'll see that it'll also mask this area. I don't want that. Now a way to be able to mask this without going over this area is by making use of the selection tool again, the S shape ribbon. Make sure that you turn off color fill, and then let's set it to freehand to select this cloud, and let's also select this one. Then tap your brush, and then you can just go over here, and your brush will only work in the area that is selected. So that way the other cloud is safe. And then tap the S shape ribbon again. And now let's pinch our work to make it fill the screen. And if you want to admire it without any of the menus around it, you can tap with 4 fingers to look at your work. And if you want to export it, if you want to share it with friends, family, or with me, then you can go to the wrench and then to share. And then you can share your image as a JPEG or a PNG or whatever you like. When I want to share it on social media, I usually go for JPEG. You can simply tap it to get all the options to save it to your iPad or to share it through email. So go ahead, share your work, and let me know in the comments, was this your first drawing in Procreate? I think you should be proud of yourself. And if you want to learn more, go check out these 100 tips for Procreate. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time for the next tutorial.